Welcome to You Make the Difference. I'm Wanda Walker, and today I'm talking to Kimberly Baker. I met Kimberly at a Homeless Coalition meeting. She gave her testimony of how Action Ministries had helped her, and when she gave it, we were all just in awe of what she has been through and what God has done for her in her life and where she is today. And she agreed to come and share with you her testimony, and I'm so excited about it, Kimberly.
Thank you for having me.
Oh.
It's truly an honor to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Let's start with what inspired you to give your testimony.
Well, I've learned that we can't keep anything in this world without giving what we have away. So much has been given to me, from things that are tangible to things that I can't explain. And in order to give back of something of what's been given to me so freely by God and others, I wanted to give my testimony, because I believe that it doesn't really mean anything if we don't share it for the next person who is going through what we're going through. So I really just wanted to give something back today.
Yes. Okay, so what happened that triggered the series of events that caused you to be homeless?
Well, it's I've heard once that everyone is 45 days from being homeless. I believe that. I was a stay-at-home mom, 3 children, I was married. And then the unthinkable, the unforeseeable, and the unspeakable happened. My husband and I were separated, and we're almost on the verge of a very bitter divorce. And I thought there was a clean break there, but I was wrong. And the man who I was married to for 10 years and had 3 children with, he tried to kill me.
Yes.
And after it happened, everything was just so, no one can explain when you come that close to dying what you feel, what your brain thinks, and what your fight or flight responses are. Your
Yes.
survival instincts kick in. And so I left, hopeful, but truly without a plan, to create as much distance between myself and him as I could, because I feared so terribly for
Yes.
my life and what I knew was going to eventually happen. I mean, I had come so close. So I left, and when I went so far away from home, I just, like I said, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have any help. I thought I had it on my own, and before I knew it, I was 3,000 miles away from home, and I was homeless.
Yes. All right, so when your husband was trying to kill you, what was going through your mind?
It's the craziest thing. Again, survival instincts. It was crazy, the voice, which was my own voice, I could hear in my head. And I remember saying things like, when I was being strangled, I told myself, you've got to get up, because I was aspirating. I was coughing things up, and I said, you got to get up and you've got to cough this up. If you don't, you're going to aspirate it, you're going to die. And when I was being choked, I kept saying, if you go to sleep, it's over. You have to fight. You have to stay awake, no matter how unconscious you feel like you're going to be. And the main thing that I said, and I said it out loud, and I said it over and over again in my head, I said, God, please don't let my babies bury me. Please don't let my babies bury me. They had already been through so much.
Yes.
And the last thing I wanted was for them to have to do that.
Yes.
But I just knew I had to stay alive.
Yes.
I knew I had to keep fighting for every breath, for everything, because I knew if I didn't, that's what was going to have to happen.
And that happened here in Troup County.
It actually happened in Meriwether County.
In Meriwether County.
Yes, ma'am.
And when was that?
January 27th of 2014.
Okay. All right. So, so what measures did your husband take during that attack to end your life?
All of them. My murder was found premeditated, based on the evidence that they found. He showed up with a gun, a gas can, a shovel, some duct tape. He had spent days organizing this, unbeknownst to me. I mean, I had threats made to me, but I didn't take them seriously. I honestly was one of those people who believed that 3 children and a marriage was an insurance policy to protect me, and it's not. It's really not. And that's what I didn't know was that any man who is coward enough to beat you in front of your children, to threaten it, take it seriously because it's real. It started with a physical altercation, and I mean he choked me, he suffocated me, he strangled me, he got on the back of my neck, and he was trying to break my neck. And at one point, I truly believed that was going to be how I would die, because I felt all the weight. And he's a great deal bigger than me.
Yes.
I'm about 4'10", 100 pounds.
Yes.
He is 6'2", a little over 200. And I was certain that my neck would buckle under the pressure. But at the moment that I thought it would happen, it was let up, and my face had been dug in the floor, and they snatched me back up and drug me out the door. And there again, all the stuff you see on TV, all the shows of, if you're in this situation, what do you do?
Yes.
That kicked in, and I told myself, oh my God, if I let him get me out the door, it's over. And I fought, and I fought, and I tried everything, and I screamed every breath I could take. Nobody could hear me. And when he finally got me out the door, that's when he showed me the gas can, the shovel, and he had the gun, and he put me behind the passenger seat, cramped up. He held me down by my hair, and
Oh, wow.
I couldn't see. I couldn't see anything. So I did, God, I did what I saw on TV, whereas if you can't see where you're going, you count. You count how long you're, going from location.
Yes.
So once we got onto the road, I started counting. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. And by about 30, I felt us go off the road again. And we started driving into the woods. And he told me on the way there, he said, they're never going to find you.
Wow.
I've already picked out the spot where I'm going to bury you. And he did. When I got there, there was, just my size, it was waiting for
dug,
me.
right?
It was dug. And he had everything necessary. And when I was, the thing that really got me was what I was so afraid of was how painful it was going to be, because I saw the gas can and the shovel, and I said, oh my God, he's going to burn me.
Yeah.
He's going to burn me. And nobody wants to die, but nobody wants to die that way.
Right.
And so when I got out there and I saw it, he put the gun to my head and he had me on my knees like this, and I thought about my kids. I thought about my parents, how my mom and my dad raised me. They loved me,
Yes.
but they were tough, both of them themselves, and I just couldn't die a coward that way. So I decided a moving target was better than a sitting one, and I just did the one thing that he spent 3 days planning but never thought of. I just got up and ran,
Yeah.
and that just threw the whole thing off. And he called my name, and when he saw what he did, he got vulnerable. I think he saw my face, because I didn't even look human anymore.
Oh,
I was
wow.
beaten so severely,
Yeah.
like I didn't look like myself. I looked like I was dead. And at times I questioned whether or not I had survived. And I was able to get the gun away from him and get myself in the vehicle and drove 30 Mississippi all the
Wow.
way back to the house.
Wow. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine you being able to do that, going through that.
I'll tell you something that nobody knows, and this was between me and God that day. When I drove myself out of the woods, I looked myself in the mirror and I said, little girl, because that's what I felt like at the time.
Yeah.
I was beaten, broken, and I felt like a child. But I said, little girl, if you live through this, you're going to have an amazing story to tell.
Yeah. Yes.
I didn't know how long it would take, but I knew someday God would give me the strength. I'd be strong enough, and I would be able to tell what really happened that day.
Yes. Wow. Wow. Okay. So you fought back and you survived the attack. What was your mindset afterwards, and how did you feel?
I questioned my sanity most of the time. I came so close that I just could not accept that I had really even made it. I had an adrenaline rush, I think, that lasted forever.
Oh,
it
yeah.
felt like
Yeah.
I just couldn't get back to who or what I was before. Something was different.
Right.
Something changed in me. I mean, I I used to be one of those people, if you come up behind me, startle me, I'd jump. That's
Yes.
it was gone. Everything that was a natural response for me was just different. I was changed,
Yeah.
and I knew it.
Yes.
And I just felt like he was coming back. I didn't feel like it was over because I knew what he said and I knew what he'd done. And I just couldn't function anymore. That kind of trauma does something to you to where you can't. Anybody who says, and I just want this to be known, people say, yes, in life, so there are things we have to get over. But that is not something you can just get over and move on with. It takes time.
It does.
It takes counseling. It takes God. It takes support.
Yes.
And I just didn't know how to shake it.
Yes.
That was the worst thing that had ever happened to me.
Yes. And so is that when the homelessness started?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I was barely just, I was just still in survival mode. I had truly forgotten how to live, and the only response my body had to what had happened was, get away from here.
Yes.
Get away from here.
Yes.
And they had said in the newspaper article about what happened to me, they said her bravery is commendable. Well, I believe my bravery is expected, because who wants to die that way? I fought because I wanted to live. But what came next was probably the bravest thing I ever did, but probably also one of the less thought about. I got on a plane and I flew. I used to be scared to fly on a plane. That was the funniest thing about it, was after that happened, I wasn't scared anymore.
Yeah.
I had almost become where I wasn't scared of anything, which was not exactly the way you want it to be either.
Right.
But I went to a place where I knew one person, and I thought I had it all mapped out, and I didn't. I succumbed to a life of addiction, trying to feel human again, because I really didn't feel anything at all like a human being anymore.
Yes.
The lifestyle of homeless it walks very hand in hand with a lifestyle of addiction. Not always, but in most cases. Because when you are literally walking all day, all night, and all you want is a place to lay your head, the people you run into at that time of the morning are typically doing and thinking and hurting the same way you are in some form of their own.
Yes.
And nothing good comes from it.
That's right.
It's a vicious cycle of victimization, and the only way to stop the cycle, is to say it stops here. That's what
Yes.
makes you no longer be a victim
Yes.
of homeless, addiction, or domestic violence. You have to break the cycle.
So even though you were running from that trauma, you ended up experiencing more and more trauma and homelessness because
Yes.
of the people you met and the things that you experienced during that time. Is that right?
Absolutely. The things that I encountered on the streets, the thing is that I did have the added benefit of, again, I was not living. I was purely in survival mode. So I suddenly knew how to make it. Like everything that I would not have even imagined in a million years I would know how to do, I knew how to survive. I knew how to make sure I was okay. But at the same time, I was in a town where nobody knew me and nobody cared.
Yes.
I was expendable, and I didn't realize that. I thought that people everywhere in the world were as nice as they are in Troup County. No, they're not.
Yeah.
They weren't. Not everyone everywhere, was raised and brought up the way we were. And you go
Yes.
somewhere on foreign soil and you take on this whole big old world by yourself, you better have God on your side. I was, to talk a little bit about the things and the risk of being homeless and being in an addictive lifestyle, I was beaten. I was robbed numerous times. I didn't have much of anything for anyone to
Yeah.
take, but whatever I did have, they took. I had a very almost severe heat stroke at one point, to the point where I never knew that kind of torture, but you walk long enough in the dry Colorado heat and it will catch up with you, especially when you have nowhere to go.
Yes.
I braved winters. Winter was some of the worst pain I've ever known, because it's one thing where if it hurts in the beginning and you go numb, but then you're so numb for so long, you think, God, I just want to get warm again. Well, that hurts, because once you thaw out, so to speak, you have to go back out there and go numb again, and it hurts.
Yes.
It hurts.
Yes.
I was at one point kidnapped by some really bad people while I was gone. And yes, I will own and be accountable for the fact that I subjected myself to that lifestyle. But I will say that I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
I did not know what this world held and what was waiting for me. But to think of trying to stay and have the life I always knew, feeling like I was barely clinging to life, I didn't know.
Yes.
I didn't know. I found out the hard way, but I will say I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
It made me who I am.
What turned all that around?
At one point, and I have to throw my mom in there for this because my mama is the strongest person I know, and I never really knew how much she loved me. You know, we were mother and daughter, and we had our issues, but I never knew how much she loved me until all this happened. And she prayed me into jail, and you know what? I'm so thankful for that.
Yes.
That is, and the funny thing is around the time she did it, I had looked up one day. I was so tired. I was starving to death. I mean, and I was so cold, and I was just over
Exhausted.
it. I was exhausted. It just wasn't worth it to me anymore, you know? And I just looked up and I said, God, if you'll give me somewhere, anywhere to lay my head tonight, I'll go to jail. Take me to jail. Like, I gave him my will and my life and told him, just get me through this, because I can't do this anymore. This is not who I am.
Yes.
And the wrong place at the wrong time is the biggest blessing in the world for some people, because I basically told on myself. Like, I really wanted somebody to take me to jail. I was like, you don't understand. You can have it. Just whatever you need. And I cried. I mean, of course, everybody does. And I have to look back on it and laugh, because I really wasn't scared. I was relieved.
Yes.
And
yes. A rescue. It was a rescue.
It really was. It really was. I will never, ever forget my arresting officer. I hugged her and thanked her. And she saved my life. She was part of God's true intervention on my life. When I went, it was March 10th of 2016. And while I was there, I really had time to think. For the first time, I mean, I was fed, I was clothed, I had a place to shower, you know.
Yes.
Jail seems horrible to some people, but when you have nothing and all you ever want is food and a hot shower and somewhere to lay down, jail is heaven. It is truly heaven. You can't ask for any better. If you have truly been without, you are grateful to be there. And when I was there, I really had time to think. I really started thinking about my life and what I needed to do and how far I had strayed from God. And although the circumstances weren't, you know, they were much so out of my hands, I knew I had to make choices and really just let God take control over my life. And so I spent my birthday there, which was March 27th, and it was also Easter Sunday that year. And they gave you those papers, you know, and people can say what they want to, but I will tell you this. If you see a piece of paper that says, if you want to rededicate your life to the Lord, if you ask God to come into your heart and save you, sign your name to it. If you really mean it, sign your name, because I'm telling you, I put my fate in God's hands that day, and He did not disappoint me.
Yes.
He did everything for me that I couldn't do myself.
Yes. Yes. Do you want to share some of that, what He did?
He took the urge, which is such a big part of addiction. I mean, you were such a slave to something that only burdens you and destroys your life. And I didn't want it, but I didn't know how to give it up.
Yes.
And I remember praying, and I said, God, I don't know how to give it to you. oh, well, you just take it from me.
Yes.
And he did. And what I remember feeling was peace like I had never known. I mean, it took a long time to truly calm down from everything I had been through. You get a street mentality, you get street smart, and you have to be tough. But walls started coming down.
Yes.
Walls that were built up so tall to protect me from, all kinds of things and all kinds of dangers. And I realized he was working on me. Like I could feel something different. And I remember just really, really talking to God for everything that I needed from that point on. And I will tell you that the power of prayer is real.
Yes.
I say that because everything I ever prayed and asked God for, he gave me.
Yes.
In his way, in his time, when I had worked for it, when I had earned it, and when I was ready. But he knew what I needed. And I always say this about me and my mom, and it's for my story. There were 3 sets of footprints in the sand. There was Jesus, my mama, and me. And the reason being is because my mama knows me. She told Jesus, let her walk. She will learn better this way. She's stubborn. I walked a million miles in the wrong direction to be lucky and blessed enough to make it back home, to where all the same struggles and all the demons from my past were waiting on me to face them. Most people don't get that. Most people don't get a full second chance at their life. God put me right back where I started when it was all just kind of taken. I was thankful to be able to go back and work on those things. I was thankful to be able to reunite with my children.
Yes.
To be best friends with my mom. I mean, I've realized something. I was like, I've spent my whole life fighting with my best friend.
Yeah.
And really all she ever wanted was for me to be okay. And for the first time in my life, I honestly know, and I know that I know that I know this because I've seen God move in my life, I know that me and my kids are going to be okay.
Yes.
And that is, as a mother, that's the best feeling.
Yes.
That is the best feeling.
That is. Yes. All right. So, what are your biggest blessings?
My babies.
Your babies. Yes.
And they are big now. They're not baby blessings anymore. They're big blessings. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Whew, bear with me. When I say that I have great kids, I know every mom says they have great kids.
And you really do.
They really are the best
Yes.
people. They really are the best people. And the fact that they're mine just reminds me, like, of God's heart for me. Like, every time I say them, it makes my heart smile, and I know that they love me, and that they know that I love them, and not just my children, but my family. I know now that I'm never truly alone. I'll always have God, but I know that I have amazing love and support. I've had people that, just like you know, that I didn't know that I would cross paths with, like, truly just love me, support me.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, as far as biggest blessings from what I've been through, I thank God every morning for hot water. I thank God every day when I can look and I can see something in a refrigerator. I thank God for when I have the luxury of being able to turn the AC on and off.
Yes.
Because those are things that as human beings we so take for granted.
Yes.
But just everything, you know, it's the littlest things with me that make me happy because I've seen life on the other side. But I think my biggest blessing from all this is the story that came from it.
Yes.
All I ever wanted to do was have, I mean, I used to think I was ordinary. I used to think, gosh, like, nobody wants to talk to me. I'm just me. There's nothing extraordinary about my life. And I swear God heard me. And life kind of broke me off at the kneecap, and I had to learn to stand on my own. And I was shaped into the person that I was supposed to be.
Yes.
And I'm so proud of
An extraordinary person.
Just an extraordinary story. I'm still an ordinary person. I'm no different than anyone else, but I'm so thankful for the story because it wasn't all for nothing. You know, that's what makes it worth it, is that maybe, just maybe,
Yes.
somebody will hear this and they'll see what I didn't. Not everybody has to go through this, and I don't know that everybody's going to make it. Trust the people who've done it before you.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. There's other ways, there's other resources.
So what would you want to tell women that were in the position that you were in?
First of all, you are not by yourself. You are never alone. I currently at this time could probably count on both hands how many women I know who are in a lot of danger in domestic violence relationships. But people don't want help when it's not their idea. And when your life is out of control and you don't realize it because you're so used to having a grip on it, you don't realize that at some point that grip loosens, whether you want it to or not, whether it's someone prying your fingers off of it or it just slips right out one day. Something happens, and if you ever feel like you are unsafe in your own home, trust your gut, because, and this is something that I look back on so much as my children were being born and as I was raising them, I always had this overwhelming fear that someone was going to come into my home and hurt myself and my children. I always, as a mom, you know, I guess they'd say that's a little crazy thought, but I always thought, okay, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do to protect my children. There was a reason I felt that way.
That's right.
My motherly, maternal instincts were telling me something. My survival skills and everything inside me was telling me that. I just couldn't realize nobody was coming in the house with us. They were already there.
Yes.
It was already happening. I was stubborn, and I wanted my children to have this perfect life, and just because it looks good on the outside doesn't mean it's good on the inside, and you don't have to live that way.
That's right.
You can be a single mom.
You can.
You can raise your children.
can.
You can do a really awesome job at it, and guess what? Your kids will still love you. That's what I didn't know. Your kids will still love you because you're their mom.
Yes.
And the bond between mother and child cannot be broken. I don't believe in such a thing.
That's right. That's right. Now, you have a song that we want you to sing. And so you wrote this song.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And so it is in honor of the people that are still on the streets, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So would you sing that for us?
Yes, ma'am. It's called The Rose That Grew from Concrete. Have you ever seen the rose that grew from concrete? She wasn't planted in the soil, so she grew up in the streets. And she did it without sunlight right under your feet. 'Cause the seed was planted long ago by someone who loved her. They just didn't know. She'd still be beautiful. She'd still grow up strong, even though she had to grow up wrong. Have you ever seen something so small be so tough? The rose rose above it all, even when the road was rough. But nothing comes to life without a little love. And giving her the chance to grow was just enough. 'Cause the seed was planted long ago by someone who loved her. They just didn't know. She'd still be beautiful. She'd still grow up strong, even though she had to grow up wrong. So please be careful as you're walking, and take time to look down and smell the roses But just remember, there's one fighting, trying to break ground. 'Cause the rose grew from concrete, and she did it right here in these streets. They said she couldn't, so she did.
Beautiful. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And thank you for watching You Make the Difference. And remember, you truly do.